Hi everyone, my name is Mr. Watson, and today we're going to be looking at a writing frame that can be used to help you structure your analytical writing. As with all writing frames, sometimes they can be limiting depending on your confidence. So if you're a student aiming for the top grades, such as 7s, 8s and 9s, it may be worth adapting this to suit your own style, or doing away with it completely. But if you find writing analytical paragraphs difficult, then this writing frame may help you find your feet. The writing frame I'm talking about is called the reading response paragraph, and it contains 5 steps. The first is identify. This is where you answer the question and bring in evidence, usually a quotation, to support the point you are making. The next step is to explain. Here, you explain what the evidence tells us and how it links back to your earlier point. Then, you explore. This is where you have another look at the evidence and consider a different interpretation of it. What else could it show? Could it mean something other than what you have already mentioned? The fourth step is analyze. Here, you zoom in on a word or a technique from the evidence you used earlier and talk about it in greater detail. If you're looking at a single word, what connotations does it have? Why did the writer choose that word specifically and not something else? Likewise with a technique. Why did the writer use that particular technique? What effect does it have? Finally, you evaluate. This is where you explore why the writer has made the decisions that they have. What were their intentions, do you think? What points or ideas were they trying to get across? You can also consider how an audience might respond and why. To see these 5 steps in action, here is a model reading response paragraph that I've put together. The question is for a GCSE text, an inspector calls, and it asked how the writer, J.B. Priestley, presents the character of Mr. Burling as an irresponsible character. Priestley presents Mr. Burling as irresponsible through the use of dramatic irony. We see this in Act 1, when he tells Eric and Gerald that the Titanic is unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. This suggests that Mr. Burling is completely certain that the Titanic will not sink despite him having no real knowledge or evidence to support this. This could also imply that Mr. Burling is overconfident in his own opinions, stating them as facts to others rather than being more cautious. The adjective unsinkable creates dramatic irony, as the audience of 1945 knew that the Titanic did actually sink in 1912 on its maiden voyage, and this works to make Mr. Burling look foolish and arrogant. Priestley, who was a socialist, uses Mr. Burling as a microcosm for capitalism, insisting that it is an ideology that often proves to be incorrect and untrustworthy. As an audience, we consider Mr. Burling, and therefore capitalism, to be irresponsible, as the two, according to Priestley, seem to pass on false information and ideas to others in a guise of certainty. So, let's break this paragraph down into the 5 steps of the reading response paragraph. Here, I identify my point that answers the question, and I bring in my evidence to support this. Here, I explain what the evidence actually tells me. Here, I explore a second interpretation of the evidence and talk about another thing that it suggests. Here, I analyze a specific word and talk about its significance. And finally, here I evaluate the writer's intentions and also discuss how the audience reacts. As you practice using this format and gain more confidence in all of its steps, you can begin to move away from the rigid structure as you develop your own writing style. But if you find that you struggle with your written analysis of texts, then hopefully this video has helped you to think about it in a more straightforward, step-by-step way. If you found this video helpful in any way at all, I'd appreciate if you liked it, and if you haven't done so yet, why not subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos just like this one. That's all for this video. I'll thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.